The United States of America. It's a land of diversity and freedom of speech, a land of promise and hope. It is home to the American dream. Millions of people travel to America each year to make a fresh start in the land of opportunity and live in this American dream. The possibility of coming to America to be successful and having your own children surpass your success is enough motivation for anyone. But is the American dream still alive? Can people come to America with nothing and start a new, prosperous life, where their hard work and intelligence be rewarded? Is it possible to rise from the bottom to the top without a strong family economic background? And can children surpass their parents in economic status to fully achieve the American dream? We would like to believe that the American dream is still thriving, but recent studies are suggesting that our strong hope for economic prosperity may actually be false hope. Hard work and intelligence may be components of living the American dream, but studies are proving that family background may have a bigger role in deciding who ends up where on the economic ladder. This, however, does not mean the American dream is dead. These recent studies simply suggest that our once strong hope for success may be weakening. In the following presentation, we will study the American dream to see if it has endured over many generations.
Two out of 3 Americans are making more money today than their parents were some 30 years ago, and are thus upwardly mobile in the economic ladder. At first, this may seem like an acceptable statistic, and it is to an extent. But this still means that 1 out of 3 people will fail to surpass their parents' income. This income is also a result of the cultural changes that have occurred over the past 30 years. Few women worked 3 decades ago, but now many are members of the workforce. With more women working, there will be more households that have 2 people bringing in money, which contrasts with the nearly strictly male working society from a few decades ago. Also, family size has decreased over the past 30 years from 4.5 to 3.2, from 1969 to 1998. With less people to provide for, total income should naturally increase. So if 2 out of 3 children are better off than their parents, it is an acceptable statistic considering the cultural changes over the past 30 years. For most of this study, the sample group taken from the population has been divided into 5 groups depending on their income. The bottom fifth includes the families with lowest income. The second fifth has income slightly higher than the bottom, and the income increases with each successive group. Studies show that upward economic mobility is the highest for families in the bottom fifth. More than 4 out of 5 children in the bottom fifth of the economic distribution will surpass their parents' income. The median income of families 30 years ago has increased by 100% for their children's generation, demonstrating that the families with the lowest income have the highest chance to move up in the economic ladder. It appears that the American dream is very much alive for families with small incomes, yet there are still forces that hinder mobility. If a child is born into a family in the bottom fifth of the income groups, there is a 42% chance that the child will remain in that group when they begin to bring in money. Also, children in the top fifth group have 39% chance of remaining in the top fifth. These studies present evidence that all Americans do not have an equal shot at moving up the economic ladder, and movement is greatly dependent on one's parent economic background. As one's income declines, the chance of making it to the top declines. And as income increases, one is more likely to stay at the top. Almost 40% of top-ranked families are going to stay at the top. However, if 40% of the families in the top fifth will stay at the top, what happens to the other 60%? They all move downward in their income ranking to a lower level. A balanced place for upward mobility is in the middle 3 groups of income ranking. Families in the middle have equal chances of moving up, down, or staying the same group. But even though there is a good chance for upward mobility everywhere, there is still a frightening fact that 1 out of 3 Americans is making less money than his parents and is falling down in economic ranking. Unfortunately for America, inequality has been steadily increasing over the past 30 years. The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. Since 1989, the top 10% of families held nearly 70% of all the wealth in America, while the other 30% was left to the other 90% of families. The gaps between each other of the income groups continue to grow. Over 60% of Americans believe that the differences in income in the United States are far too large. Yet, mobility does still occur. The majority of children will move up or down in the relationship to their parents. The only thing is, with rising inequality, family background has a much more prominent effect on one's economic success. Americans have very high hopes about their chances of succeeding in today's harsh economic climate. Nearly 70% of Americans believe that people are rewarded for intelligence and skill. Unfortunately, these optimistic feelings are canceled out by the statistics found in this study. As we have already established, the income of children is closely related to that of their fathers. When compared to Canada and other European countries, the United States has one of the highest positive relationships between earnings of the sons and fathers. The United States has a 47% relationship between the earnings of the son and the father, meaning that about half of the parent earnings advantages will be passed on to the child. Recent studies have been concluded that it is much harder to advance from the bottom of the income distribution in the United States than in other European countries. 42% of sons who had fathers in the bottom fifth of the earning